Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl, back again for another movie spoiler review. And I went to go see the Uncharted movie yesterday. Not one of my most anticipated films, but I still was curious. And the movie was delayed a bit because during filming was when like the whole COVID thing was popping off. But it's finally released after all this time, and I think it was been released last year, but it's here now. I went to see it right after work yesterday, and it's not terrible. I can give it that. It's not terrible. But I've watched a lot of movies in my time, and especially I dig treasure hunting type of movies. One of my favorites being like Indiana Jones, which they reference here, ironically. And of course, I watched the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movies, as well as the rebooted one, uh, which I will eventually do a spoiler review for that one. But National Treasure, probably easily, right behind Indiana Jones as far as like good treasure hunting type of movies. The thing is, the difference is that there's some, I want to say flair, but it's just like they bring some fun to it. Those other movies kind of, except for like the fourth Indiana Jones film, and like I said, I'll get to the rebooted Tomb Raider films. But this Uncharted movie, I expected it to really like get me like like invested, because like with National Treasure, something like that, or like or Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade, when he's a hunt for like the Holy Grail thing, you're like hooked. You're like, okay, what's how you solve these puzzles, and like the stakes involved and everything like that. It's just like you on a thrill ride. And most people who I've heard who've seen this film, in their description, it's kind of like, turn your brain off kind of movie. And it's like, there are some films, it's like, I mean, if it's, the way how you deal with movies like this, that's, more power too. That's fine. And not every movie's for everybody. But it's just like, there are some movies that should not require you to turn your brain off to enjoy it, if that makes any sense. When you hear about an Uncharted movie based off the video games, you should be psyched. And what really kind of left not like a bad taste in my mouth, but was a step below that feeling, was the casting announcements right away. That kind of like, no pun intended, it kind of sullied, my, expectations for it. You got Mark Wahlberg as Victor Sullivan, aka Sully, and you got Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. Right off the bat, just like with the Mario movie when they announced Chris Pratt, which to this day I think is like so effing odd. It's not like, I think I'm in the same camp with everybody else. I think we all, at least for the most part, all in agreement that these actors are phenomenal actors. We all love like Chris Pratt, Tom Holland, Mark Wahlberg. They all act their ass off when they're casting in roles. They're aside from like The Happening, none of them have like a misstep in that acting, honestly. But there are some things when it's like, imagine I mean, like, let's say Kiefer Sutherland. Kiefer Sutherland, great actor. We all acknowledge, Kiefer Sutherland as a Sutherland is, great at his job. It's I hardly recall anything that he's been bad at. But imagine if they announce, I don't know, like Harry Potter as like an older Harry Potter as a cameo and like one of these a sequel trilogy of Harry Potter, and they casted Keith Sullivan as Harry. That is how weird, like, because your mind won't, link that up. It's just like the puzzle pieces don't fit. You know what I mean? And it's just that if it was technically this could be considered, I guess, not even a prequel, just like the early days of, well, I guess that's what prequel is, early days of Nathan Drake and Sully. But it's just that Tom Holland is like in his like late 20s, getting into his 30s, is still pretty young, but his outer appearance still looks effing like 17. And it's like they had early in the film, he's like they had this like little boy as like young Nathan, and you go back to the present with him and as his adult present day version, and I'm just snickering like, okay. I was like, this little pipsqueak is supposed to be young Nathan. I was like, you already got a young Nathan. That's Tom Holland. I mean, and it's just like in the jokes, the jokes, because like Nathan is very not like Deadpool level equipped, but he's got like a charming snarkiness to him. And I'm not getting this from Tom Holland. And it's like, as much as I joke about this, and I made this kind of joke a lot since the Mario casting, but Chris Pratt would have probably made a little bit more sense as a young Nathan rather than Tom Holland. And that's not even a joke. I joke. I think we all make jokes about like throwing Chris Pratt at every little thing like a dart on a board, but this will probably, your brain will kind of line that up a little bit better than Tom Holland. Tom Holland should have been playing like younger Chris Pratt playing Nathan Drake, and then you fast forward to adult Nathan Drake played by Chris Pratt. That's how like my mind is solving the puzzle. But that's just me. And like I said, it's not like these actors are not doing a good job. They're doing a fine job. But it's just like, it is just a little bit taking me out of it, honestly. And the jokes don't land. It's really not. I'm not. There's a few chuckles I get out of this, but I'm really not laughing. I mean, what this movie managed to do is kind of give me, because I started, playing a little bit of Uncharted for the channel, which, by the way, if you follow me in the links in the description, you can watch me play Uncharted live, or like you can watch like the videos I upload on my YouTube channel. But it did give me like since I got a PlayStation 5 and the Nathan Drake collection is available, and I feel like, why the hell not? I never played an Uncharted game. Years ago, I watched other people play Uncharted, but I never had like a PlayStation, at least until around like late 2018, early 2019, I got myself a PS4, because any other PlayStation game I ever played has been on somebody else's PlayStation or my brother's PlayStation when he had like the PS1, 2, and I think he had 3. I cannot recall that part, but I got myself a PS4, and I still never got, Uncharted. I still never had like the interest like that. I'm more of like a Tomb Raider fan, to be honest with you, but from the walkthroughs I've seen, I haven't, I understand the appreciation for Nathan Drake as a character. He's, you know, you know, Indiana Jones were like the foundation from where Laura Croft and Nathan Drake sprang up from. That's pretty much like the inspiration. If like it's kind of like Zorro or the Shadows, the inspiration that grew into Batman, what he is today. Without Zorro or the Shadow, we don't have Batman. So that's why I have an appreciation. So I know what to expect when I think of Nathan Drake. But that aside, I'm gonna go over the story a bit. Now it opens up kind of. I know some of the people probably made this joke before, but it opens up like, uh, Nathan in like, cause it's straight from the game, where he's like on the, hanging off of a cargo plane, unconscious. Oh, and in the classic Nathan Drake look, man, really. God, it's like Tom Holland's cosplaying as Nathan Drake. It doesn't feel like he's embodying Nathan Drake, really. You know what I mean? But he's waking up, and it kind of feels like I should be hearing like a narration, like, "I bet you know how I got in this predicament." It's like, and then it's like a brief moment when he's fighting these bad guys, these henchmen, as he's trying to climb back to the cargo plane, as it's like, he's hanging, by the skin of his teeth. Then a car, comes flying out and causes him to tumble completely out. And then you see like this brief POV moment where it's like, obviously CGI, and I'm just like, so are we just in the game now? It's just like, not because, speaking of the game, the way it opens, it's clearly like Sony is like really like leaning hard into like, this is a PlayStation game, and you seen like Kratos and like Nathan Drake and all these classic PlayStation icons, at the opening, not the opening credits, but like before the credits starts, like opening the movie. And it's like, oh God, it's like, we get it. We're watching it's a PlayStation movie. Get it? It's a PlayStation movie. And it's like, oh, it's a Sony thing. It's like, okay, you don't need to beat our heads, beat us over the head with this. We get it. You're very proud. You're very proud of yourself right now. But you open up with like with the whole cargo plane scene. Then you see like little Nathan and his brother Sam, just like out of the I think the third or fourth game, where he's breaking into some old person's house that has all these antiques, and they see this map, which is the first recorded map of the world. And he talk about Magellan, he not being an actual first person to do this. He kind of died at some point, and his crew kind of finished the voyage. At least somebody from the crew finished the voyage, and they gave him the credit. Don't know how true of that is exactly. I mean, some historian can like verify that. Something like, because I watched like these Insider or GQ, Vanity Fair kind of thing, where they have like these experts from these different fields of study look at certain scenes in movies, and they can, from their perspective, give us like, like how accurate it is. Like just a couple of days ago, I watched a video where this paleontologist going over about certain scenes in like dinosaurs, and like, did you know like a T-Rex is a lot faster than you assume? And like, that scene where it's like, and like as soon as he does that slow stomp, you see like the water shakes. He would think that would happen if the T-Rex was actually running, given his big size. But if he's just walking normally, the ground wouldn't shake so hard to cause that kind of movement. And albeit it's fast, it doesn't make sharp turns that quickly because of his large size. So you can easily at least bob and weave around certain corners where he can't really catch up to you, but if you're going straight ahead, he will catch up to you. And the fact that in the first Jurassic Park movie where he's like does these little flare things, because just because you don't move doesn't mean it won't find you. It sees you. You got the largest, at the time it had the largest eyes of any land animal in history, so it can spot you. But because of those large eyes, he's got very, I guess, sensitive eyesight. If he get that flare, he will, and then you see Jeff Goldblum shake that flare out in the woods. Realistically, in his opinion, that dinosaur will be a little bit more, pay attention a little bit more to that glowing flare than Jeff Goldblum. So he would have been run off to that flare. So, that's kind of thing. I kind of want a historian to go over, see if Magellan actually finished his expedition, or was it just like a propaganda just to big up his name. But they ended up getting caught, and I guess they, the orphans and that whole like situation with like, oh, hey, their parents died, obviously at a young age, they're in an orphanage. I saw this kind of thing in like movies here and there kind of thing. I don't want to say it's played out, but it's like, bad orphanages with like crazy nuns, because Nathan has like some, like not like a fear or a phobia or anything like that, but just like, just like a bad experience with nuns, and being raised like in this like Catholic nunnery thingy. Is like, he was still younger than his brother. His brother kind of aged out, so he's got like these 3 strikes. So now that they got in trouble for breaking in, the cops gonna like end up taking him away. They take him away to I want to say foster care, because he's old enough to like be put into like the system. But the brother kind of like left his ring with his brother, and he kind of snuck away. And now like Nathan's, grown up, he's bartending, stealing from rich patrons and everything like that, till he meets up with Sully, mentioning about how he's starting like really, it's like dude talking with this like, after like my review of the Hitch movie, which you can check out on my YouTube channel. Check that out. As I mentioned in there, how like, as Will Smith like was so accurately portrays, how like, you gotta be if you're approaching a girl and like she's allowing you to engage in conversation with her, and she say certain things, you gotta be quick with certain dialogue. If she's like hitting you with certain like beats, you gotta be, not only it's like a tightrope you gotta walk. You not only gotta be like maybe not super witty, like, but just be quick with like some decent answers, and like just to get her to just to hold her attention. Don't do nothing with my hair. And like I'm seeing Tom Holland, obviously he's trying to like rip her off with a nice bracelet, because he can easily spot like she's just like a rich girl, and she's going to a different like bar in a different part of New York, where originally she's used to going to like Greenwich. I guess she's kind of like I won't say like underage to be drinking, or just trying to spend her daddy's money, which he's kind of spots off the bat, don't know how, somewhere else where she doesn't get busted. But not like anybody can track that, but whatever. And it's like he's going to her with like going over the history of excuse me, of this drink that he's pouring for her. Like, oh, did you know like the first drink was made by blah blah blah. And obviously she was like, because he's a handsome dude, she caught, she obviously wasn't really engaged with the history, but she thought it was very cute, and the fact that kind of like blew her mind at the very least. But and and she's still there, hanging out. And like then he starts smoking like a cigarette, and then he's playing with her. Excuse me. He's playing with her like, oh, did you know this? The first cigarette was invented by Shigeru Yoto or something like that. He's like, oh, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't know where the first cigarette came from. But that made her giggle. And I'm like, dude, it's like, you got to end. You just pretty much just seal the deal. I mean, far be it from me to ever bring up how somebody should be sealing the deal, but it's kind of like, it's not as obvious to me, and when I'm in the moment sometimes. But outside looking in, it's kind of like more easier for some reason. I don't know why that is. But he steals her, bracelet as she's leaving. And he meets up with Sully. He tells him about, bringing him onto this expedition to find Magellan's gold. And at first he's, says like no, until like Sully picks his pocket, and leave his card. Then he comes. It was amazing how to come back to pick up his wallet and the bracelet he took off him. Excuse me. And so as soon as he walks in, he sees all these artifacts and this map and everything like that. And then it's like, he mentions about his brother. I was like, I used to work with him. He shows him the picture and everything like that. And he's like, oh, he ghosted me. And so he, convinces him to come with him on this expedition. And along the way, you might be able to find clues to where his brother might be. So, Victor goes over about this cross that will help them find Magellan's gold. And it's going on auction at this auction house. And then so they, of course, they dressed the part, all like tuxes and everything like that. And as they walk in, Victor sees this woman, obviously like the right hand, the goon, kind of like the odd job of the bad guys. Joe Braddock, played by Tati Gabriel. Excuse me. Apparently she was from The 100 on the CW. I never watched The 100. Really didn't interest me. But apparently she was from there. Antonio Banderas played Santiago Makata. Now, there's only three people of like, four people that actually has any kind of connection with names to the game. Is Nathan, Victor, Chloe, and Sam. Everybody else is pretty much like movie created people. So Antonio Banderas plays Santiago, who hires Joe as the his like right hand. He's trying to buy off this cross that help him find this gold that's connected to his ancestor who funded Magellan's expedition. So while Nathan's supposed to go behind the scenes to shut off the power to cause a distraction so Sully can snatch the cross, of course, a fight ensues, kind of interrupting Nathan's part of the plan. And then, of course, it's Tom Holland. He's, actually is very good at like parkour kind of stuff, so he knows how to move around. But it's part of me feels like they're this is I'm trying to find my proper words here, because obviously I was about to say like they're trying to do Indiana Jones thing, because Indiana Jones is not like a skilled fighter. He knows how to box a bit, but he's kind of clumsy with it. But I think it's part of his charm. He does things that's kind of simple. Like a guy's coming in with like a sword. He's very, you know, skilled with it, and he just pull out his gun, bam, done, move on. And you see, and then of course, like Nathan Drake in the game, he's not like a super skilled fighter, but he's more like he knows how to box, but he uses his like weaponry mostly. And of course, it's a Sony movie and it's like PG-13. Can't have, well, they have guns, but it's like you don't see like what I expected was in the movie Nathan utilizing guns. Of course, it kind of like a huge gunfight in an auction house, but you see very rarely him actually using guns to fight off bad guys. And it's like I'm not expecting any kind of bloods, guys. It's not a Tarantino film, but I only started playing the game and I'm already like getting into like guns and like a handful of shootouts, and that's what I expected. And you see Tom Holland's doing all this parkour stuff, avoiding and only doing like certain shootouts, and it's like, God, this is not. It's like they're just there at being like Nathan, but not close enough. And of course, the distract. I mean, this is one of the few funny moments that I found in the movie where it's like, Sully's doesn't have any money, but he's keep raising his paddle, trying to outbid Santiago because he doesn't want him to end up buying it, and it's like he's taking too long shutting off the power, so he's just like, I'm already in it, so. And it's like he trying to stalling enough time to allow a distraction, and it's like, he's saying over the earpiece to Nathan, like, caught the power, break ankle. I don't give a shit. Do something, cause I don't have no money to pay for this. And that part did crack me up. But I think the people in my theater were kind of laughing a little bit more than I was. And maybe it's because it's just my expectation was kind of like all over the place with this movie. It's not like high or a simple high or low. It's like all over the place. It's like, God, it's like I can't really find a reason to love it. I can't find a reason to hate it. But I want to do both. Well, not hate it, but just like, yeah. But the distraction is made by the whole crashing on the chandelier on the ground, causing this big commotion. So he gets across. He gets stopped by Braddock, but the auction security, inadvertently help him, and thinking he's part of the employees being, held hostage. So he gets out of there, and he gets in the car, about to completely drive off without Nathan, but Nathan's already in the car. It's like, you about to leave without me. I was like, no, this is cool. Like, you made it out there, and everything's fine. So they get the cross, and now they got to go meet up with Sully's contact, Chloe, who has the other cross that she's supposed to be keeping safe. And then, like, Wood, she tried to double cross them, with the crosses, and snatches. And it's a lot of people snatching, like, as supposedly good at. Nathan, from what we've seen, is supposedly good at snatching items off of people very easily without their notice. And someone that skilled should be able to not fall for something like that. And twice so far, he got, the bracelet he stole stolen from him, and he got the cross stolen from him. And it's like, dude, you're supposed to be good. Again, it's supposed to be his early days, but it's like, as seen in like earlier in the film, he's obviously skilled enough to not have been caught for I don't know how long. He's been bartending. He's been doing this for quite a while. So you would think that you got to learn from the street. So the street should also told him not to fall for that same crap. No matter how skilled the other person is, he should be able to spot someone. It's kind of like, people from war being able to spot another person who's like a soldier, like just by the look, at least from what I've heard. And I think of somebody in that same field being like, able to pickpocket off of people very easily. They can spot somebody pulling that like a move, because Sully spotted, Nathan very easily. So that's kind of weird to me. And I don't think from the game I've seen, at least not from what I've remembered, Nathan being like a known pickpocket. Well, then again, I'm pretty sure I have. I just can't recall off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure he has, so scratch that. But they end up chasing him down. And then they convince her to work with them. But there's this whole dialogue about like not trusting each other. Everybody's not trusting nobody. Everybody's double crossing everybody, and it's kind of like almost a whiplash. It's not, like I said, it's not even fun, because I've seen like other movies where people like people not trusting another person, and it somehow made it a little more engaging. And this seems like people who just don't get it. Just it seems like they just have like a stewing in their anger, and they just don't know how to either let it go or hash it out. And it's kind of like, God, just like stop talking about it, and kind of mood. I don't know. It's just not engaging. It's not fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's like it's a treasure hunting movie, and we're doing this. Or at least I've seen it done better. So they then you see this other part where Santiago is like arguing with his father about like him giving away their family fortune, because he doesn't believe his son is should be inherited. It's like, I guess, not responsible, or like doesn't have faith in his son to have all this money. I guess considering all his little treasure hunting exploits, it's kind of like I guess he thinks it's stupid or something. It's never fully explained, like why he says had like a bug up his ass about his son's little own personal time exploits. Then again, this is Antonio Banderas. He's not old, but he's like old enough where the fact that he shouldn't be getting gruff from his father, who's like knocking on death's door, let's be honest. And it's like, he's a grown man, can do whatever the fuck he wants. Like, and then it's like, should they have cast somebody of somewhere between a mid 30s to mid 40s, age group, to where this kind of like, because the guy got to come off young, maybe kind of like when I did the review for the first John Wick movie on the channel. The kid the boy that killed Keanu Reeves, not Keanu Reeves, but John Wick's dog, and stole his car. The Game of Thrones kid. I kind of expected him or a guy like him in this role, who's young enough to you can believe why like a little bratty kid would make more sense for him to not be trusted with the family inheritance, and the father will have a reasonable belief that, hey, I don't trust this punk kid, a snide-nosed brat with all the family money, because he's my only heir, and it's like, if I die, he's gonna have it all, and he's gonna piss it all away anyway. So I might as well give it to people that give it away to charitable stuff and blah blah blah. But you got a fully grown ass man of Antonio Banderas, who looks like a well-respected man, and clearly he has some type of authority. Don't know exactly what he does for a living, aside from him trying to do these treasure hunting things. But that part is weird. But he ends up killing his own dad, with Joe. And Joe, fairly intimidating person. Like, honestly, because I expected maybe like a car bomb happening. I expected a car bomb as soon as his father says like he has no faith in him and he goes to his car, and I expected it to blow up. But no, Joe was in there and she cut the dude's net, and that was into him. But then they go to the Philippines, where the next clue is, and they end up going to this find out this monastery. Who they found like this it's kind of, this is another Indiana Jones thing, just like Last Crusade. We see this big thing on the floor that kind of points to a direction inside the church where they lead to the stairwell. But this stairwell leads to this little chamber with like the the statue of Mary, and they take the two crosses, use them as keys, unlock a hidden passageway, and then it's got another back and forth about not trusting each other, blah blah blah. Then Sully goes off his own, go a different route, because this whole line about like a pathway to heaven and a pathway to hell. So it's woven into the clues that like if you're with people like the explorers, like Magellan and his crew, they have to be able to trust each other. So one group has to take one cross and the other has to take the other and go in different directions and converge on another point. So Chloe and Nathan goes on the ground, and they end up in some kind of hidden club, some rave, and it's like, now we're on a set of Venom, Venom 2, because this is pretty much almost the same thing. It's like, holy crap. Now I'm thinking about it. We're on the set of Venom 2. And then Joe is following Sully, while her henchman, one some Scotsman, kind of look like Russell Crowe's brother or something. And like this whole time, this dude's like talking purposely incoherent Scottish. And I'm curious if there's any Scottish people who saw this scene in him, or even the trailer, because it's in the trailer, and saw that. And do you find that kind of like insulting in any way, as far as like him just, because it seems like just gibberish with just Scottish accent behind it, or he's just talking like super super fast with a Scottish accent, and it's like he did it 3 times and not one it wasn't funny. It's like, I get the joke, but it just wasn't funny to me. And I kind of wanted it to be funny, but it's like it just wasn't resonating with me. And they found like another passageway behind the bar, and it looked like some kind of mechanism to where once they undo a latch pointing, going towards the surface, which is kind of like, near like a sewer or something like that, apparently. And, it's like near a fountain, I should say. And the water in the fountain is draining and it's filling up the area, the hidden area, and is nearly about to drown them. So they come to the understanding that while they unlock one latch, they needed Sully on his side of thing, once he finds his spot, to unlock it from there, so they can the door to the way out is open. So it's part of the clue. They have to trust Sully end of the deal to, as part of trust, to get to the other keyhole, unlock it so they won't drown to death. And you know, it's close because Joe intercepted, and her and Sully's duking it out until Sully managed to unlock the doggone thing. And then eventually Nathan and Chloe find another hidden area where these big ass urns filled with salt breaks open for some reason. It's been holding there for the longest time without cracking, but as soon as Chloe starts checking it, it breaks apart. But they find a hidden map to lead to another clue, and she betrays him and then let it slip about how Sam died because of Sully's negligence, and Sully kind of left him there to die after a shootout with Braddock, which eventually Sully comes clean about. So she takes off with the map. It turns out she was working with Santiago this whole time. That's how they keep finding them everywhere they go, which you would think they kind of would put two together a long time ago. Why these people keep showing up, but whatever. So Nathan's obviously pissy about it, and Sully convinced him to keep working with them, but we'll finish this, but we're on our separate ways after it's done. Yeah, whatever. So they track down where Santiago and his team about to take off on a cargo ship, about to go to the same spot that Nathan pointed out earlier, where the next clue will be, which will be in the Philippines. And this is the whole point where the opening to the movie starts with the whole cargo ship thing. But Joe betrays Santiago, slit his throat right in front of everybody, and they, none of the henchmen help because they working with Joe. That part did catch me by surprise. I gotta admit that part. I was like, I did not see her just flat out just slitting his throat like that. Like, holy crap. And so that's the end of the line of that family. So she pretty much took over. It's never explained why she betrayed him. I mean, of course, he it's like one or two times when he's kind of like, then I guess like one moment when she realized that Braddock was, Chloe was working with Santiago this whole time without him telling her, or at least letting her in on the whole situation. But was that enough for her to betray him? Like, I kind of needed more to kind of like explain why she would just, bite the hand that's feeding her with, dudes paying her. And she'll get more money if they find the gold and everything like that. So it's like, what's the need for the betrayal? That just come out of left field. He's not crazy. He's not the Joker. I expect something like that from the Joker, to just flat out just kill somebody just on a whim. She just not appears that crazy. So it's like, what is that reason? But Chloe slinks off as soon as she sees that knife go to his throat. Nobody saw her slip away. It's like she's kind of obvious, like she's doing this, like you can see her, like as soon as like the the slash happened. And so they're sitting there looking for her, and of course Nathan and Sully sneak on board. See what happens. Then the whole scene with the cargo plane. Chloe takes Santiago's car that's on board to like drive it off to avoid the gunfire as much as you can. Knocks into at least one like ram or anything like that, but like causes Nathan to fall off with her. He doesn't have his parachute, Sully's the only one like left with his parachute, but because they had to get the two crosses, that's why they're on the plane. But Sully got the two crosses. No, uh, Nathan got the two crosses, but they go off on the they got out of the plane. They made it safely on one of the cargo with like the parachute strapped to it. Then they go on shore where you see like a cameo from Nolan North, who voiced Nathan Drake from the games, which was a nice little cameo. I like that because I like to hear the actual Nathan Drake. Because if it was 20 years ago, I think Nolan North would have been a perfect Nathan Drake, a live action Nathan Drake. At least 10 years ago. I don't know. But it's just like, it's just like that. Because maybe it's because of the voice. Because I always heard Nolan North's voice and I picture Nathan Drake in my head. Either that or Deadpool, because he's voiced Deadpool before. But, it's like another funny moment where it's like Nolan asked, like, what the hell happened to you guys? And just brutally honest, Nathan's telling him, like, we fell out of cargo plane and blah, blah, blah. And, and Nolan's like, oh, something like that happened to me once. A little wink and a nod. That was probably the only charming thing out of this entire film that I liked, honestly. But they land on this kind of resort kind of situation just by sheer effing luck, which is a Nathan Drake thing. He is very lucky. So they get a place and they utilizing clues left by Nathan's brother, which Sully assumed that Nathan already knew, or at least something that his brother would have left Nathan to figure out. So he's getting all these pictures together, and he's figured out that the crosses, come apart and they turn into one of those compass things, and it points to another. I forgot this part, but it points to a different spot with these coordinates that he wrote down, and he realized after the experience he had so far, he come to realize, okay, like I can't trust her, and it's like a lesson you gotta learn in this kind of business. You can't trust anybody, kind of thing, and it doesn't really, well, I guess it comes full circle, or at least whatever. But he leaves fake coordinates with Chloe for her to, because he expected her to double cross him again. So she took off while he was sleeping the false coordinates and kept the real coordinates on his person. So he goes off and finds the Magellan ships with all the gold in it, and Sully follows him and it's like, okay, where the hell, how did you figure out where this place is without the crosses? And then you would tell him for how long? But Barack and her man show up. They hide, and they utilize these planes to anchor the ships so they can just pull them from the ground and carry them to these like freighters. Of course, in the Philippines, they're trying to avoid the Philippine police. But you have these this big old airship battle thing, and it's cool. But then again, it's like I've seen slightly better fights with Pirates of the Caribbean, to be honest with you. And these people actually use these old rusted out swords that break it apart. They're breaking apart while at the same time dodging gunfire. So, and then there was like a brief moment where you kind of feel like you hear like the Pirates of the Caribbean for a split second. I don't know. I guess they need like an epic kind of ship battle kind of music, and they chose an obvious kind of tone. If you ever watched any of the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, uh, but uh, they managed to take down one ship, which ends up, forcing the pirate ship to crash into some rocks and spill all the stuff to into the ocean. So they only got one ship left, and they fight off Braddock, which Sully has to ditch his backpack full of gold that he picked up, a little while ago, in order to save Nathan. And the chorus to that's carrying the ship kind of break apart, and then the ship falls right on top of Braddock. That's the end of her. And then, oh look, Sully, Sully, like Nathan managed to pickpocket a bunch of gold before it fell, because they can't go. Which I'm glad they mentioned, because like, you can easily find some kind of deep sea diving equipment so that you can get that stuff up from the water. It's like, Sully points to the Philippine police that's or naval police is coming, and it's like eventually they're gonna grab that stuff before we even get the tools. So they have to hightail out of here without getting arrested. But they have like the gold, at least some of it, and then off on the whole. Oh hey, this is the star of the Uncharted franchise. I'll be surprised if it gets a sequel. And of course, you see Chloe. The last little moment, I was like, oh yeah, there's Chloe. She didn't show up. Where the hell she is? Oh, she's, on a boat, going to the wrong coordinates, and you see them flying by, and it's like, motherfucker kind of situation. And then of course, you get the end credits with like, the brother in prison writing these postcards, and then you don't see his face because you don't know what he's looked like as older, expecting some kind of sequel, I guess. And then you see, slowly finally growing the mustache, what people complained about like months ago, and it's like, that's not gonna fix anything. It's still Mark Wahlberg supposed to be playing a guy who's supposed to be probably in his 50s. God, it's like I said, I don't hate it. It's just very mad to me, and there's plenty of treasure hunting movies that went back thousands of times, and some, like, like even National Treasures, not as like Indiana Jones, but it's like a fun, just like a fun time. He's like, to this day, thanks to Nick Cage, I still believe there's like a hidden map behind the Declaration of Independence. That's how engaged I was. He's just like, trying to figure out, okay, is a map, because there's stakes involved. It's personal to him, and it's like, there's nothing really personal involved with anybody. There's Sully's out for money, and that's typical for any kind of treasure hunting movie. There's always people, wanting money, but it's like even Pirates of the Caribbean, there's stakes involved. Even with the bad guy, there's stakes involved. Even beyond like, money, he's trying to be mortal again. He doesn't want to be an undead thing. It's just like a meh movie. And it's like, I expected more from an Uncharted movie, especially after years of movies that had the same genre. And you got the games that you can easily, like, I mean, obviously they probably use the games for, research, but it's like, you got years of treasure hunting kind of movies to get inspiration from. But it's like, you had all this time. And it's like, to churn out something like this for an Uncharted movie, which you kind of expect. I mean, I know you got to temper your expectations, but at the same time, you do expect something from an Uncharted movie. It's like, it could have been like a little bit better. And it's like, it only fell short to a meh, at least in my opinion. But I'm curious to know what you guys think. If you've seen the Uncharted film, please let me know Do you really like it? Do you really hate it? Or is it math for you too? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I will see you guys next time for another spoiler review. And I cannot wait for the Batman to come out because I pre-ordered my tickets. I'm going to see it on that Thursday viewing. But I'm not going to do any spoiler review until maybe later on that weekend. But look forward to that next month. It's only a couple of weeks away, as a matter of fact. So we're nearly there. So I will see you guys next time. Take care.